Guys, welcome to the pod. Today I am doing a virtual pod and we have decent audio, so this should go well. Hanging out with me today from Colorado is Drew, and he is I believe the owner and founder of a game call manufacturing company called Real Game Calls. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Right on, Drew. Well, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. A nice day out here, anyways. So, how are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, we have great summer weather in studio, just working on some edits and trying to find time today to actually do a little bit of trail cam hanging for whitetails of all things in Washington.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's
yeah.
90 degrees though. It won't be too fun, but yeah, it'll be my workout for the day. Will be hiking in trail cameras and stuff. So yeah, what part of Colorado are you in?
I live in Pueblo now, currently. I used to live I lived in the Vail Valley for like 20 years. I used to be a skier, and so that's what I was doing up there when I started elk hunting. So,
Like a professional skier.
yeah, I used to get paid. Like Vail Resorts used to pay me to ski powder and all their video shoots. Like they'd go up the lift early when it would snow, and they would actually pay me to do it. And so like they had a bunch of content that they needed for their marketing campaign. So I got paid to do that. I mean, other than that, I used to compete, but I made the finals in Chile and the Chilean Free Skiing Championships one time, but I usually just stay up all night with anxiety before the contest and then crash the next day. So that was about the extent of my contest career. It was not really what I was. Anyways, I did a lot more free skiing, like skiing for the camera and stuff towards the end of that. But,
Do you remember Freeze magazine?
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when Freeze came out. I remember when Freeze went out of business. I remember the whole Freeze reign of, yeah, kind of that free skiing era went and took off. I remember like when I started working in a ski shop, there were still straight skis, and then went through like the product design evolution of all of the skis up until like the current state of it. I actually owned a ski manufacturing business when I invented the elk call. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I had gotten sponsored by a guy out of Denver who was making his own skis, and like he'd seen me in all the Vail Resorts advertising. Like one week I was on Vail's website, Breckenridge's website, and Beaver Creek's website. Like the image above the fold was me skiing. So like he wanted me to use his skis, and so I was like, cool, yeah. I had a ski sponsor previously, but I've had 4 ACL reconstructions. So one time I tore my ACL and got dropped by my ski sponsor, but stuff like that happens. So got another ski sponsor. I was kind of excited about it, so I ended up skiing for that dude, and he let me help design skis, and then he could like put art on the top sheet. So like he had really unique art on all of the skis, which I thought was really cool. So I ended up buying part of it from him, and then like as it went through, like, dude, if you want to start a business, like everyone's got these great ideas, like I'm gonna start a brand, I'm gonna start a business, but like the part you don't think is so cool is the 80 to 100 hours that you're gonna have to work and not make any money for a long time. You know, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, I mean, that's just kind of like the way it goes.
Yes.
And so he wasn't into that, and I don't blame him. Plus we all started getting sick. Like if you don't know what you're doing with manufacturing, you start cutting up materials and putting that stuff into the air, like you're gonna get sick. So we all started getting sick, and then he didn't want to do it, so I ended up taking over the company, getting some dust collection equipment, like learning about dust collection and the industrial processes, to the point where like I built another ski factory up in Vail right about the same time the patent attorney was like, you can start selling elk calls. And it's just, I was always an elk hunter. I moved to the mountains in 1999, and like almost right away I was like, if I moved to an island, I'd go fishing for marlin or tuna. And I was like, I always seen elk hunting on TV, like I'm gonna start doing this. So I started elk hunting pretty much right away when I moved to the mountains. And then I started going, like, started bow hunting for elk and fell in love with calling elk, and like like to me that's like the pinnacle of sport. Like, I mean, I don't have to tell you, like calling in a bull and just the experience of it. It's like I was instantly hooked and started getting into calling, and then as I was making skis, I was like, man, I think there's a room here to improve on, like, there's a lot of problems with the elk call designs that were currently existing, whether they weren't like completely accurate to the sound of elk or like they just didn't work consistently. There's always some kind of shortcoming to the design. So I was like, I think I can come up with something better. And so I invented this call that has a reed inside of it, and then it hinges. And initially it was made out of modeling foam, and it was really kind of big and clunky. But I took it outside the first day that I had it on my buddy's house on the property on top of this mountain, and bugled with it, cow called with it. We walked inside, and elk started walking down the driveway like 5 minutes later, and I was like, all right, I think I'm onto something with the sound, and just like evolved it from that prototype into the current version that I make now. So once I got the patents for that to come through, I had promised to sell a bunch of skis to like the Ritz-Carlton. They wanted 12 pair to hang on their wall with my art on them, and I just called them and I said, look, I don't know who's going to make these things, because in the process of learning to make skis and learning to build a factory, I'd gotten sick so many times. I cut my tricep tendon in half one time. I had to get a bunch of staples in my head from hitting my head. It's just like an industrial experience, and then get sick, having asthma attacks. So I was kind of overbuilding skis. That wasn't going to be a sustainable thing to build 1,000 or 2,000 pairs or 3,000 pairs of skis. The whole idea of being an American ski manufacturer, that's great and all, but it's an enormous amount of work. And when I was like, I'm going to sell this elk call that I have used on elk. I had used it for 2 years at that point. And I would spook cows, and I would call them and they would stop, and I would call at them and they would start walking to my shot one in the heart, 10 yards that I did that. Literally spooked it, stopped it with this call, and then used the call to make the elk walk back towards me. And I was at that point, I was as soon as the guy said you can start selling these things, I was I'm not gonna have time to make skis. So that was pretty much how I got started and ended my ski making career.
Wow.
So,
that's a lot that's just a lot of life in a short amount of time. Let me circle back to, let's talk about ACLs. I just got a new one in January, and you've done that 4 times. All the same knee or both knees? Where are you at?
Both knees twice. Last time I fractured my C7 too, just for fun. But because when I moved to Colorado, I wanted to be a freestyle mogul skier, and then as the terrain park skiing started to progress, that's what I wanted to do. So I used to compete half pipe and slope style a little bit, and that's how I tore my ACL the first 2 times. Then I decided I was going to be a more big mountain backcountry style skier, so that's how I tore my ACL the second 2 times. So, but yeah, having done that, I'm sure you know that the rehab process is pretty involved, and I seen you were going through that online. How's that going?
Yeah, I mean, it's going pretty well, to be honest with you. I got to give a lot of credit to my PT, Ben Wardell, just a guy who's a bow hunter and has a doctorate in PT, and he just keeps a close watch on me. And then I think the biggest thing was getting surgery, being in really good shape at the time of surgery.
Yeah, that helps.
But, I'm nowhere near 100%, but I don't feel limited so far. So that's good. I'm just trying to get that quad to grow back and get all my flexion back and not do anything dumb. You know what I mean, Drew? Just not do anything dumb.
Yeah, that's where I got to, where I just don't want to be injured anymore. So my last few years of skiing, I got to where I wouldn't fall, and I could go all year without. I would really try and not fall, because I was I don't want to do this anymore. No more rehabbing knees, and so I get that. You want to be careful, but you'll be fine for elk hunting. I bow hunted after all 4 of them, and then I had 2 microfracture surgeries, and that was the only time I had to miss because I had it in the summertime. But you just go a little slower and climb over logs a little more gingerly so you don't re-injure yourself. I think you'll be good.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the heads up. I do want to know, so you said you moved out west. Where did you move from?
I grew up in Maryland. I was born like in Annapolis, Maryland, so I grew up on the Chesapeake Bay. I grew up on the water. It was just my dad lived on a river, and we had a bunch of boats, and so I was always fishing, and that's why it's real game calls, because like I was literally always had a fishing rod in my hand until even when I moved to Colorado, still fishing and still fishing to this day. I fish all the time. So
Okay.
yeah, but
Okay,
I
so-
moved out in 1999 to ski because I worked at a ski shop in Maryland. So
That makes sense. Okay, so you land in Colorado, still has the most elk out of any state, and I want to know about like your bow hunting progression, because that elk hunting learning curve can be a real steep one. Did you have a mentor or mentors? Or are you just like the kind of guy who's like, I'm just gonna figure this out, sort it out as I go?
kind of just figure stuff out on my own. I knew a guy that bow hunted, and I knew the taxidermist down in Gypsum, this guy named Eric that bow hunted elk. And I knew a couple guys, but they didn't really, like nobody I knew killed bulls. They just bow hunted kind of, and like it seems like it is a very steep learning curve. And I know people that have bow hunted up there for like 10 years, and it's not an easy place to bow hunt up there in the Vail Valley, those units around there, they're tough. So yeah, I knew people that elk hunted, but like not people that were good at it. So I just my neighbors, we and my little brother, we rented a house that was like a duplex down on the Colorado River. You had to go under this tunnel and then down this dirt road. And then we were like right on the river, so we could fish, and we had these little kayaks, and we were paddling up and down the river fishing all the time. And my neighbor in the other half of the duplex gave us a bunch of elk steaks. I think I was like 22. And I was like, dude, that was delicious. And I see the elk across the river all the time, so I went and bought a rifle, and I was like, I gotta take hunter safety. And then realized that archery season came earlier. And I was like, my dad had always, when we were little kids, my dad bought us compound bows, and his friend wanted to take us hunting, but my mom would like never, she was never cool with that. So like I never got to go hunting. I always wanted to go. My older brother, his dad would take him like duck and goose hunting and stuff, and I had friends that were like, hey, you can come bow hunt whitetails with us. My dad said it's cool. My mom would be like, no, you can't do that. So when I moved out here and I was like, oh, hunting, I was like, I always wanted to do this, and now that no one can tell me what to do, I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna just start doing it on my own. So that's kind of like, I was already passionate about it, the whole idea of it, and I didn't really need a mentor. I was just like, I'll figure this out. So
Where in the world were you when you heard your first bull rip off a bugle?
oh, where was I when I heard the first real one?
Yeah.
Huh. Probably in unit 45, I would say, in Colorado, when I heard like the first real bugle. But I mean, like that was so long ago now. No, we were in unit 361, so that was definitely the first place I heard elk bugle. Now that I think about it, I had to think back.
Yeah,
That's
no,
like-
that's cool. And like, what was it like for you, man? Like, you're a guy, grew up in Maryland, and you're out here, and you've seen some stuff on TV, and you got some friends, you've seen some elk, but now you're hearing them in real life. Like, was that pretty monumental?
It was fun. I mean, like, it's just like I always fished, and I've always like sight fished, and it was just like a natural progression. Like, this is sick. Like, this is like sight fishing times 10, but like it's involved even more, and like this is hard. So I think I've always kind of gravitated towards like, if it's hard, then it's I find it really interesting. Like, I was a kid from Maryland. I was like, I'm gonna move to Colorado and be a pro skier, and everyone's like, dude, that's ridiculous. Okay, whatever. But that's what I did, and I didn't start getting paid until after I tore my 4th ACL. So like it was just a lesson in perseverance. So like I just think I gravitated towards what's hard is archery, elk hunting, and like literally I was like, all right, I'm getting a bow, I'm not even gonna go rifle hunting, and I just dove into it. And I missed a bull that first year, and I shot at him at, I think I was probably like 45 yards, and the arrow ticked a branch and went right over his back and buried in the bank. And then I got like completely discombobulated after missing him, and the second arrow I just sent it and I called him back too because I can't even remember what kind of elk call I had. But he spooked, called at him, called him again with a cow call. He turned around and came back, and then I missed. By that point, I was like, I had lost all full composure. This bull had turned around and come back, and then I don't know where my second arrow even went. It just, I found it laying on the ground where he was standing, kind of pointing back uphill. So
yeah, it just kind of like lose your mind, and you know, it's crazy what that can do to you. Which is, it's kind of a drug. That's why we do it. It's like pretty exciting. Doesn't get old. But in your first couple years in Colorado, like, tell me about archery a little bit. Like, did you have a mentor on how to shoot? I mean, I know you grew up shooting some compounds, but like, what was your first bow?
I had a bear cub when I was a little kid, and then I had a Jennings like Lightning 2 after that. That was like a 50-pound bow. So I bought a Martin, something or other Martin bow, and it had like a whisker biscuit. But I mean, like, I could light it up with that thing. So I was pretty confident going into that first season. I'd shot a lot during my lifetime, and like fairly. I was trying to tell somebody the other day, like, you got to practice shooting, but like that's going to confirm like your belief, like your self-belief in your ability. But like some people like practice shooting and they have some talent at it. So I mean, like, I always felt like just from shooting my whole life or whatever, you know, I had some athletic coordination from being a skier and just playing lacrosse. And I mean, I had nine older brothers at some point. So like we always just played sports. So it was just an athletic thing, like you can shoot. And so I got that bow and I could shoot it, and then I was just like, all right, I'm gonna start hunting antelope. I think I missed one in the over the counter, and then I did the elk hunt because it was like, we backpacked in, we scouted out all these bulls. It was sick, man. Like, I mean, the whole experience of it, especially being so long ago, like there wasn't as many hunters back then, and it seemed like a lot easier just to get into elk. So we just bumbled into a bunch of them that first year. And then it took me 5 years to get my first bull. Like, the archery hunting in Colorado is not easy, especially like over the counter and like these highly pressured units. So, but I mean, I missed 3 or 4 bulls the first 5 years before I finally called one into 7 yards and double lunged him. And I was like, okay. And I think that was my learning curve. Like, I'd never really hunted, you know? So like I shot a couple does, and like, you know, these kids that grew up, you know, my kids that are going to grow up and not have to learn how to do it as an adult. Like, that's one thing I struggled with, was like, I had never killed anything like that, you know? So you would hike around and think about like, how is this going to go? You know, like, I've never shot a doe, didn't hunt whitetails growing up. And, you know, my first bull wasn't my first elk, but it was my second elk. So, you know, it's just a learning experience. And I think that's one thing, like, you just learn as you go, as you participate in it more and more. So
Yeah, definitely. I had the same amount of years. I think '01 was my first year elk hunting with a rifle, and I was successful. Got a bull, and then I grabbed the bow for 2002, and I hunted every day of the season until it was 2006 when I think I finally arrowed my first bull. And it wasn't the first time I shot at a bull, I can promise you that. It was very similar to you. Like, just so many screw ups that I would never trade for anything. I absolutely love that I sucked at something and I just wanted to figure it out. And I became obsessed, and obviously I still am. But it does take time, and it could take less time. Somebody could have some early on success, and then they could be a huge like slump for years or seasons. So to have consistent success, it's just that learning curve, like you said, like understanding elk behavior. I want to know, what year did you come out with your prototype for your elk call?
So I think it was like 2013 or 2014. 2013, I probably invented the first one. And then 2014, we hunted with it a lot. I hunted with it the first year a lot too. But I'm trying to think, like, the years and everything kind of blends together at this point, because I've literally built so many of them by now. But yeah, it was like 2013 or 2014. I invented that first prototype. And so my hunting partner, and he's an interesting story. Like, you're talking about people that, like, even though he hunted for a long time and was in like lots of situations to kill bull, he never did get one, because it's not like intuitive to everyone, I think. And that's what you're saying. Like, some people, like, they'll kill a bull and they won't kill another one for a long time. Whereas, like, there are people that now, you know, as you get better and better and better at it, like, you start to feel confident at it. Like, there's people that kill bulls every year on over the counter, you know, tags like that. So, but yeah, it was 2014. We tested it. 2015, I think, was the year that I got the approval from the attorney, because it was like patent approved, like the patent was pending approval. And so then I started selling them just like randomly to people, and I think I sold 60. And then the next year we sold 600, and then the next year I sold 6,000. So,
Oh, wow.
you know, yeah, it just kind of blew up. And that was, I mean, that's an experience of itself, because, like, dude, I was just a skier, and, you know, like, I had all these friends that were just like, they just want to do stuff, man. They just want to go mountain biking, or they just want to go shred. They just want to go fish, you know, and they're not really like, they didn't move to the mountains to like, hey, dude, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to work 1,000,000 hours. And so I kind of went in 2017. I was like, I'm done skiing, you know, like, I had a bunch of friends that died in avalanches or died in blunt force trauma impacts with rocks, trees, or whatever. And I think I set off an avalanche the last day we skied. It was like May something up on Loveland Pass. And like, I set off a small slide, and I just remember consciously being like, dude, you've gambled enough. Like, that's enough. Go sell these elk calls. And so I literally just stopped skiing that day. And I was like, I'm going to go full bore into this elk call thing. And in doing that, I mean, like, you know, have you ever heard of those guys talking about, like, you have a lonely chapter where, like, you decide to make a change in your life and then you lose all your friends, and, like, you just stop hanging out with the people that you were hanging out with. You stop associating with, like, what they were doing. You stop, like, wanting to be what you were, and you want to be something else. And so, like, somehow in my mind, I just decided I'd rather be an entrepreneur, and I'd rather just sell elk calls. And so it's been an experience, just, like, learning how to deal with that. You know, when you're like, have one group of friends and then you have no group of friends. And so now, like, I'm living in Pueblo and starting to have some new friends here, but we kind of jumped around the country a bunch with my ex, and yeah, it's kind of a long story. I don't even want to get into it at this point. Like, just whatever happened between when we blew the company up until now, it's just been one drama mess after another, to where now, like, I've got to the ability of, like, now I know how to manage that stuff, and I know it's not going to stop coming. It's just going to be like one more drama mess I'm going to have to manage. And that's like going from being a skier who was good at skiing to trying to be an entrepreneur who's good at business. So,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. One of my best friends, he's still backcountry skis. He skins in, and, you know,
Sure.
I think it was I want to say it was last February. We had a really cold stretch up here in the PNW where it was negatives down here in the valley, so it had to have been terrible in the mountains. But him and a group of his friends that they've been doing this for years, and I personally have never backcountry skied. They went into a pretty, like, normal place, and I think he's certified and all that stuff that you are, like reading
Sure.
snow and all that stuff. But bottom line is,
no, I'm not certified. That's one thing I just learned I learned on my own. You know,
Okay.
by going out there.
well, he had all the
I'm
stuff,
actually certed.
all the qualifications.
Yeah, avalanche class training stuff, like.
Check the report. Did you know,
Sure.
this guy dots I's cross T's, and his name's Landon. And then one of my buddies reached out to me and said, "Hey, did you hear about Landon?" And I'm like, "No, what?" He's like, yeah, there was an avalanche, and they search and rescue can't find them, and I don't know if he's gonna make it. Come to find out, like, it was a trio, and one of his friends I didn't know didn't make it. Kind of like you said, blunt force trauma because of
Yeah.
the slide.
Yeah.
They were able to find him, but he was basically dead when they unburied him. And Landon threw out his chute and swimmed his way through, and, you know, I think he broke his leg, and I can't remember the details, but I do know that, like, they had to leave their friend on the mountain dead, and they had to hike out in a wall of snow in like negative temperatures, and we're lucky to be alive. And it just makes me think like, man, that you are gambling. Everybody's gambling all the time. Like, life is precious, life is short, but like you guys in the backcountry especially, it's calculated risk. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, that was probably a good call for you to be like, you know what, man, like, it's time to shift gears.
Yeah, it's like when you're young and you don't have your prefrontal cortex isn't developed and you just don't have the risk evaluation skills. It seemed like a great idea to move to the mountains and be a pro skier. And then, I mean, as I got older, like, I kind of knew. I mean, there was some people that died in Washington. A guy named Jim Norm Jack was one of them. He was like the judge on the free skiing tour, and he got buried up there. I can't remember how many people got buried with him, but that was in Washington. And, you know, I know a guy from Idaho. Where did he grow up in? Anyway, his name is Patrick Orton. He was a photographer. I think he died jumping off a bridge. But like, people like doing all that dangerous stuff when you're young, it's great. But like, eventually it does catch up with you. Like, you can only gamble with, like, I remember one time my buddy Ben, his brother Mark, we were all out in the backcountry together, and like, there was this rock that it gets a bunch of snow on it. We call it the bus pillow, and you could just like air off it. It actually tore my ACL off of that one year, going like 70 feet when I meant to go 40. And I had a bunch of camera gear in my backpack, which is why I was like, I literally was going way faster than I thought, and sent it off of there and had to get myself out of the backcountry. Like, I'm going a mile and a half back to the ski resort with a torn ACL. That was fun. But another time, see, that's how stupid I am. We were back there again after that to hit it again. Like, if I think back to some of the things I did, and I'm like just questioning, like, where was the logic in doing that? But so I think it was Ben went off of it, then Mark went off of it, and he landed. No, it was my buddy Joe and my buddy Mark, and Ben was with us, and I think Ben was still up behind me. And Joe and Mark both hit it, and when Mark went and landed, the thing slid to the ground, and like, it slid this avalanche chute that's never run like that. Like, it ran to the ground and was like literally shaking the entire mountain, and like broke trees that have, you know, like 50, 100-year-old trees that have never been hit by an avalanche. We broke them in half like nothing. And so I'm standing up there like, okay. So, you know, like, got skied around the hang fire and got down into the avalanche chute, and we got ourselves down the mountain. But I just remember being like, Joe, you got kids. Like, we can't be doing this shit. Like, this is stupidity. Like, all of us are gonna die like a very horrible death. And then it was like, one of the kids we were with was like, you are a pro skier, like, you want to be sponsored skier, you want to be like skiing in powder, you better get used to avalanches and being around it. I just remember just being like, you're crazy. And that kid got buried later in the year and killed on Loveland Pass. And it's just like that, those experiences, I was just like, this is taking the fun out of this stuff. So my roommate, she was with the founder of Vail, and he got killed in an avalanche in East Vail. And like, they all got caught in the slide. I think there was 3 or 4 of them, and she got left standing on a cliff in her ski boots with no skis, just standing on the edge of the cliff as everybody got swept down the mountain. And she's never been the same since that.
Oh no, that's traumatic.
Yeah. So
it's
cool, but at the same point, they don't show you in all the marketing videos of all this skiing stuff, like, the true cost of, like, I think I competed in Aspen with 105 guys, and 6 or 7 of them were dead, 5 years later.
Yeah.
And if that was the NFL, like, they'd just cancel it. So,
yeah.
But whatever. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to go back to elk hunting. So, like, it sounds like...
Sure.
I know, I love this. The 14 was the pivotal year for you. You said you started, like, you went from selling 60 to 600 to 6,000. So they must be intriguing. I've never actually heard or seen one. And so okay. So for those that are watching the pod, show that up to the camera even a little bit more, can you? Okay.
So it's got a reed on the inside of it. So, and then, like, there's stuff under here that when you, like, open and close it, it changes the size of the reed so that the pitch slides without, like, it's just super easy to use and it sounds really natural. So, but like, you can give it to a baby and they can pretty much play it, where you can give it to somebody that knows what elk sounds like and they can like imitate all the elk. So
Dang, that sounds good.
I've sold tons of them, and the reason that I sell so many of them, and like you can ask my customers, is like what the guy commented on the ad I have running, saying the elk are more relaxed around this call than anything else that he uses. And I mean, like, I was talking to my buddy on the phone, one of my hunting partners, because I was like, what do you think people want to hear on this podcast about? And he was like, well, just tell them, like, I was like, do you still carry calls from another manufacturer? And he was like, no. And I was like, could you come up with a reason? And he was talking about he wasn't until recently able to bugle with my mouth reed. So he's been using it to, this is like 3D printed. I have a patent on this, but he wasn't able to bugle with it till recently, but now he can. So he was like, I'm not going to carry a traditional call of any kind anymore. So anyways, it doesn't make it super easy, but it just sounds different. And like, I've used this on elk now since 2018, and like, everyone in the industry thinks I'm fiery, or like they get pissed about what I say. But it's like, if you were a quarterback for the Patriots and like somebody asks you, are you the best quarterback in the league? What are you going to say? Like, I suck at my job. And like, you know, I don't want to make it about me, because it's not. It's really about these calls. And so like, you know, I just think that the sound is an improvement on what other people were. You know, I did like looked at some of the stuff that other people made and just made my own stuff. And so then people are like, he's fiery, or he says this or that. And I'm like, man, am I supposed to say that I suck at designing calls? Because I'm not going to say that. Like, self-belief is paramount. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur or an elk hunter or anything, like, you better believe in yourself, because if you don't, no one will. So
Born Primitive Outdoor is the clothing we wear, not only in the gym, but more importantly, out in the field. My favorite pant is their most affordable. It's the Terrain. My second favorite is the Frontier Light. It's a very quiet, performance-based material that has four-way stretch, articulated knees, and performs well. It has ventilation. I also wear the Ridgeline base layers, their mid layers, the Quiver, as well as their Puffy, the Tundra Light, and Heavy. They also have Windstopper jackets, and their rain gear is the only rain gear that I know that has four-way stretch. It's all performance-driven. It's not camouflage. It is, in my opinion, the best. Use our discount code ELKSHAPE to save some loot and to support us. Check out bornprimitiveoutdoor.com. Quality Archery Designs. I was kind of a naysayer in the beginning until they came out with the Integrate MX2. I put that on my Matthews, made for my Matthews, and now they make Integrates for several different bow manufacturers. This is by far the easiest operating rest on the market, and I would argue that rests are one of the most important accessories you put on your bow. For micro-tuning fixed broadheads, look no further than the MX2. This is something that you can do one click at a time to get perfection, and you can click it in the upright position and stock with full containment, something I wasn't able to do with a limb-driven rest. So I'm a huge believer in QAD, and I think you guys should give them a shot. Check out their website to learn more. They also make some pretty amazing broadheads. QAD, made here in the States. Guys, do you have a health savings account? I do, and you can use that card to purchase sheep feet, which will help save your feet. Everything starts from the ground up. Sheep feet are orthotics that you put in your boots. So you take whatever comes stock out, put those in. It's suited, it's custom, it's tailored to your feet. Then you'll transfer energy more efficiently and avoid neuroma, plantar fasciitis, hammer toes. You just have a better backcountry experience and transfer more energy. When you sign up for Sheep Feet, they send you a mold in the mail. You put your feet in the mold, return label, send it back. Within a couple weeks, you'll have your own custom orthotics that you can put in your training shoes, your hiking shoes, and your hunting boots. Head over to Sheep Feet to learn more. Discount code ELKSHAPE will save you loot. It's the best money you'll spend.
anyways,
yeah, it's interesting. Like you talk about the elk hunting industry, that term, I'll kind of help define a little bit of where I'm coming from, because I know other people will hear this pod.
Sure.
I was introduced to Primos cassette tape the very first day I killed an elk, listening to a cassette tape on how to make their sounds on the way to a rifle elk hunt in the truck, in my dad's truck, in the dark. And
I was introduced to elk calling in a very similar passion with a DVD from Primos back in the day.
And I'll give them a shout out. Like, Will Primos is a genius marketer, and that little Southern Turkey guy. Will Primos is a legend, but like he tricked me into getting a bow because I could just hear the audio of that cassette and these guys calling these elk in, and the mics that they had. I could hear the guy's heart beating, and then the string dump, the thwack, and then the celebration. And this wasn't visual. This was all audio based. And I was like, damn, I got to get me a bow. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
And then I went and bought VHS Primos videotapes. And I've said this on the pod before, but like, I curse Will Primos for making those videos because I thought those tactics would work on public land. And I think that's partly why my elk hunting learning curve was a long one and a steep one. Is like, I would try to emulate what I saw. I had no idea that these dudes were filming these hunts at the Hill Ranch in Colorado or, so I thought these was public land.
I had the same learning curve because I had all the same videos. And when I started elk hunting, you're like, oh, cool. That's how you do it, right? Like, that's how they're doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And I get that.
No, and then finally in like, I want to say 2008 and 2009, I got linked up with Larry D. Jones to do a couple of Bowhunter Magazine TV hunts for elk, and realized that he had been making calls since the 80s, found out about elk fever, watched it, and I fell in love with that guy. Larry D. Jones is also just a legend, great elk caller. And then somewhere along the line, I ended up getting connected with Dirk Durham before he was a part of Phelps. And then obviously he became a part of Phelps working for Jason. So I got to know Jason, and we hung out for quite a few years. Love those guys to death. And then this kid named Cody, who I used to train in Boise when he was like in junior high. He was the only 12-year-old I knew that killed an elk with a bow. So I thought this kid was badass. He now
that's
works.
Pretty impressive to 12 years old to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. He works for Slayer.
Sure.
I think Slayer Game Calls.
I met his dad. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, Joe, and great Joe and Shelly, great people. Yeah. And then I've had Corey Jacobson on the pod and the Elk Nut. And so I guess what I'm telling you, Drew, is that like this is kind of me telling all you people out there in the elk hunting industry that make money selling something, we can all be friends, and you don't have to get all butthurt because I'm talking to Drew from Real or this, that, the other. Like the consumers, the people that buy your stuff and everyone else's stuff, I encourage them to try everybody's elk calls to figure out which elk calls they make the best sounds with, because everybody's palette is different.
You work for yourself, so you're gonna make your own marketing decisions about what you're gonna tell people, and I get that, dude. And like, I'm not trying to start anything with anybody because like I never really wanted to, you know. And I don't know if I should get into it, like the experience. It doesn't even matter at this point. It's like I don't care. There's a guy named Gary Vee that talks about the wine industry. He's like, there's enough money in this for everyone that I don't need to worry about what my competitors are doing. So I don't really worry about what anybody's doing. And if anybody's offended about anything I said, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm just not going to sit here. Like, I'm never going to say that I suck, because like that's just not my personality to like. Sometimes in this world, like, being humble is a cool thing, but like you can diminish your talent by being too humble about things. So there's that too, you know. So.
Well, what an intriguing design. I've never seen anything like it. Can you show that the camera again one more time and kind of give us a 360
like
of it?
This is 3D printed version. Maybe this is a little bit easier to see because it's like brighter, but it's got like a bottom that has a spring, and then it holds this reed, and then it has a top that has a piece of foam, but it also has like a hinge.
Okay.
So, and then when you put this thing together, it's really easy to play. just simplifies making cow elk sounds. And like it was like the first one I made sounded super nasally and sounded really good, so it was like kind of like an accident of innovation. Like I made one and it was just like, oh crap, that does sound good.
Yeah, nasally is, I like that adjective. That is a good, like if you're trying to create some elk sounds. So can you bugle with that as well?
Yeah, I can bugle with this one. I mean, you could use a tube and make it sound better, but like I've literally bugled like right at elk, just like that, like 40 yards away from him, and had him just come running over. So you can use a tube, you can not use a tube. This goes in the tube, but this is basically like all of this stuff is based off of the same principle of like how the reed changes size. But I have a mouthpiece one for people that can't do. If you can't do that, then you can do this. Where you can do it with. I got some people that have bought this, and most people can do it. Like I sent one to my Navy SEAL friend in Utah, and he's really handy. So he sent me it. He was like, "What is this?" And then 10 minutes later, he sent me a video of him shaved it down, because that's all this is. It's like this shaved down to fit in the roof of my mouth. And
okay.
So when I invented the first call, I realized that most calls are based off of the same design. Like a duck call is based off of an open reed design, whether it's in the tube, or a goose call is based off of that, or a deer grunt. They're all kind of the same call. So I was like, what else can I call with this? And then I killed a turkey with it. And I was like, okay. And I rewrote all my patents. And then I was like, well, what else can I call with this? And so now I have a whitetail version that I lived in Kansas for 4 years, and I bought and sold a farm on the eastern shore of Maryland in the process of like designing this thing. And I've killed a whole pile of deer with this little doe bleat, and you can kind of grunt with it too. And like adding those things together, like mixing it really fast. I've had like I was looking for a buck that I thought I'd shot with a crossbow. I like crawled out in the field in Kansas, because like sometimes out there's no trees or whatever. So like I was just gonna do anything I could to get this one buck. I had him come by on November 2nd and like skirt me. And I don't know how he knew I was sitting in that blind, but he did. It was like he used his sixth sense, skirted me. As mature whitetails are, man. And like, so he skirted me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna take the blind down, and I'm gonna lay out there with my son's crossbow, and I'm gonna try and shoot him that way. And even though that's cheating a little bit, I'd like kind of lost it to try and kill that deer at that point. And I ended up missing him because I shot the top of the milo stalks with the arrow. I ended up finding the arrow, and there was no blood on it. But in looking for him, I was standing by this fence line, used that call, and I had 2 bucks just charge in and like try and kill themselves. So I'm standing there. They're like 40 yards, just like whitetails trying to kill themselves. And I was just like, man, that's cool. So I've had like really awesome experiences in prototyping and testing that. And so I'm going to re-release that this fall. Hopefully. I sold all the ones I had, and I had just not had a chance to reorder them. It's been out of stock for a couple of years.
Okay. Okay. Well, it looks to me like you have a way different outside the box, like nothing I've ever seen before. Just giving you my like first impression, I was like, oh damn, that elk call, and especially the one you first made sounds on this podcast with, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's really crisp.
Yeah. I've seen other people's, like I've seen the old style calls, and I've seen the reactions that I get from elk, and that's been my interaction with customers, is like it's a different. There was a guy this year, and he was like doing this little kids youth instructional thing at this hunting event, and I just looked at him and I was like, dude, I know all these techniques are cool, but like if you use my calls, they just come running at you. And I wasn't trying to be a dick, but I was just like, that's kind of like been my experience lately. It's like the elk literally just come running at me using these calls, and whether that's cheating or not, I don't know. I sure do enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
So.
And it looks like you also you have a variety of bugle tubes on your website. Yeah. The one thing I was going to say about any elk sounds that are synthetic, man-made is I'm not a fisherman. I'm not into it at all. I'm protective of my time. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because my personality would be psycho. So, but elk sounds, sometimes it's nice to pull out a Carlton or a Slayer or a Phelps or a reel and just like throw a different lure out to see like that little nuance, different sound, and figure out what the elk want to hear. So I encourage everyone to have a gaggle of different elk calls in their back pocket and figure out not only which one do they operate the best on or have most confidence with, but like figure out what the elk want to hear. And same with bugle tubes. I have so many different tubes, grunt tubes, all sorts of ones. And sometimes I'll just go grab a different one just to mix things up, shake the earth up a little bit because I'm whatever I'm doing is not working. So it's cool to like talk to you, a guy who's just kind of coming at it from a different angle, and see kind of like
a fishing analogy which you're talking about. Like sometimes the fish wants a different fly, they want a different lure and like a different color, and like so you can, and especially what you're confident with. Like that's another thing is like if you're confident with the call and you got experience using it, then by all means use it,
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't break down Drew's elk tactics 101 or 201. Like, take me through sequences or what you're looking for or when to make the sounds, where to make the sounds. What is working for you, Drew, if you're open to sharing some of your best practices?
Sure. I mean, like, if you're going to hunt over the counter in Colorado and like just locating the elk is going to be your biggest challenge. Like most of the time I'll tell people like, you're either looking for elk or you're hunting them. And most of the time you're looking for them, because if you're hunting them, then they're right there, you know where they're at, then your tactics are going to change. So most of the time I'm just trying to get one to talk so I can figure out where they might be, or like last year, getting one to go to bed and keeping tracking on him, keeping him bugling until he goes to bed, and then just sitting there for a while, and then, then sneak in and then try and get him up out of his bed and call him in. So I called in a 5x5. I actually shouldered him last year. I never shouldered a bull before, but I was just excited. For some reason, thought he was 30, and he was like 18. So I put my 30 on him and just hit him high, and like I didn't get any penetration. I found the arrow. Like that bull, I'm sure that bull was fine, but
yeah.
It was like, got him to bugle in the morning, and I was like, where he's at, I know if I go try and run over there, the wind's going to be swirling. So why don't I just wait until the thermals are doing their thing, going uphill, and chill, let him bed down, keep tabs on him, and then get over to where he is, get in close, and then start calling. And, locating elk, I mean, like that's your primary goal if you're hunting the over-the-counter unit, and especially like where I hunted, it's all timber, so like there's very little like spots where you're gonna be able to glass the elk from a distance and watch them go to bed and then go get in their bedroom. Like
sure,
you're gonna have to get them to talk, or you're pretty much like SOL. I mean, like if you don't know where the elk are, you're gonna hike to go check a bedroom that doesn't have any elk in it, I mean,
bow hiking. I'm very familiar with it. So when you had that bull, like you obviously waited for him to get in his bed. He was a 5x. He may had cows. He maybe didn't. You can explain that in a second. But I want to know, okay, you were patient. You waited till the wind was favorable and blowing uphill. What sound did you start off with? What did it take to coax that bull into your position?
I just literally walked in and between using these two calls, just and then you add in and literally like, that's about all I did. And then seen the bull get up out of his bed, come up the hill and get shot. And like I said, I blew it, but you know, that was I just didn't I didn't hunt much for a couple of years because we had 3 kids, and I have 3 kids, and you know, it is what it is. You know, I married this girl, and it just, with everything in my life, started going downhill after that, and until I got divorced. It seems to be my life's turning around again, but you know, people will take your energy, and for a lot of years there, I was just raising kids and barely got to elk hunt, and kind of got out of shape. So it was like, I've had the 6 knee surgeries, and when I used to live up in the mountains, like I was always mountain biking, or at least somewhat fit, and then moved to Kansas, and I was just like, oh crap, she's pregnant, you know, gonna put on some weight, and all of a sudden I wasn't like elk shape, wasn't elk fit. So I did a year of trying to hunt and not being in shape, and then the next year I started running again in 2020, and I had a pretty good hunt in 2020. I actually ended up hitting a bull, but the arrow was sideways in the air because it had ticked a branch and like ticked it sideways, and I slapped the bull didn't injure the bull at all, but I had a pretty good hunt. You know, I passed a 4x4 and bitch slapped a 5x5 with an arrow, and I was like, man, that was fun. And then the next year my dad got sick, and we ended up going back to Maryland for a little while. Came back to Kansas, and the same thing, I tried to hunt, and I was just like, man, I am not in shape. And so since 2022 I've been getting my ass back into shape. So
yeah, you look pretty fit, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I go run. I mean, I had all these knee surgeries. If I don't run, I'm not going to be elk hunting, and it's like, it's going to hurt regardless. So I've just gotten used to like going to run in pain. So I ran 6 miles this morning, trying to run 6 miles. I've had 6 knee surgeries, so I always try and run 6 miles. I don't know why that number just is like sticks in my head, but I do that a lot. And then I lift. I haven't been lifting all year, but I started lifting again in April. And just like, dude, if you're going to spend your time to go elk hunt, and it's going to be on public land and over the counter, you know, like I can see why you want to be fit, dude, because it's not easy, and that's going to give you an advantage, because you got to be able to get within 40 or whatever, however close, comfortable you are shooting at a bull. But like, you know, getting fit's going to be like, that's the one thing that you can do, that and like being a better elk caller. Like, yeah, shooting, practicing, like you better be able to make the shot. Like, those are 3 things that you can probably really work on. But fitness, if you don't have the fitness to get to where the elk is, have fun, you know?
Yeah, I want to kind of end on this idea that you mentioned, because this is huge, Drew. Like, you lived in the mountains, skiing, mountain biking, elk hunting in Colorado, high mountain terrain. Then you went into the shoes of probably some of your customers and a lot of people that message me that live not out west. And you were a flatlander in Kansas, and you drug your ass to the mountain. Please talk to me. Dive a little deeper into that. Like, you said it was kind of shitty, but like, how shitty is it when you're really not, you know, acclimated to the mountains, and your experience, I got to imagine the experience is just not what it could be when everything hurts, or your altitude sickness, or you're just carrying extra weight.
The year after my dad died, and I had, you know, my wife gave birth to our little one, and she was postpartum. I mean, like, my life was just a nightmare. And I started trying to get back in shape, but that year sucked, man. Like, I came back to Colorado, and I had gotten a limited entry in the secondary draw elk tag, and I got a limited entry archery buck tag just in the secondary draw, and I was like, sweet, I'm lucky. But it sucked because I knew where the elk were, and I never got close to them, because if you're not fit, like, that's so paramount. And obviously it depends on like where you're gonna hunt elk. Like, yeah, like there's some mountains on the southern plains here that are like not nearly as high up, and they're not nearly as gnarly, but like, if you're gonna go hunt at 11,000 feet, 10,500 feet, you know, the elk are up at tree line, or they're like above 9,500, and you're not fit, it's like trying to run, like you have one of those dreams where you're running in slow motion and you're just like, you don't go anywhere. And so you just can't elk hunt. Like I just was like, this sucks. And in 23, we got divorced. I ended up with the kids full time. So I didn't hunt at all. But last year I was like, cool, I'm going to get some time to elk hunt. And I made sure that I was like in the best shape I had been in since I was like, you know, a long time. And that really helped. And I killed 2 bulls last year. So, you know, like proof is in the pudding, right? Like,
yeah,
be fit. And you're going to like, if you want to be, I was talking to my buddy Cliff. I don't know if you have heard of the Cliff Gray podcast or whatever, but like I've known that guy for a long time. And we were talking about like percentage of hunters that kill elk every year on public land and like how it's so low. But like, I think it's lower. Like, I think there's 1% or like there's one guy in 1,000. He's killing a bull every year. Like, is it 1 in 100? You know, saw something where Goggins was like, you know, out of 100 people, 90 of them are just elk hunting, 9 of them are killers, and one guy is deadly. So I think you can, like, that's the one area where like, yeah, you can be a good caller, but like if you're a good caller and you're really fit, like you might be that 1%, and like just having, and then you just need to get the experience of the interactions with elk, knowing where they go to bed, you know, knowing the tactics you need to be patient, like during the day, like running after a bugling bull, like maybe that works, or maybe you need to let him go to bed, or maybe you need to like be able to read the scenario, and you're not going to learn that by like anything less than experience, you know. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. So it sounds like some pretty big changes the last few years for you with, you know, you've quit manufacturing bougie skis because it just wasn't scalable or sustainable. You invented some elk calls. You're passionate about elk hunting. You've had knee surgeries. You've lost your father. You've made babies. You've been divorced. So what's your crystal ball going forward, man? Like this point in your life, how old are you? And what like gets you out of bed? What's like jumping out of bed stoked for this?
What makes me stoked for this, like, dude, the interactions with people, like I talk to a lot of elk hunters, and that's really fun, you know. And like I've been there, like had a job, like grinding, like had kids, you know, had the shitty marriage, had all of this stuff, and I know where people, like, I know what it means to them a little bit more now. Like, you know, when you get your week off of work, you know, like whatever your job is, whatever your career is, whatever you do to like feed your kids, and you get this valuable time. And so like I just want to make the best products for my customers, so that like, you know, this guy or this lady that takes care of their kids or like busted their ass at work and like gets a week off from work, I want to give you the best product. Like that gets me out of bed in the morning. And then I want to elk hunt, and I know I'm not going to get much time. Like I might end up getting my kids back full time this year. I'm not quite sure of that, and it's looking that way that I'm only going to get like 4 or 5 days to bow hunt. So I better be fit and like just wrap my mind around, like, it might be impossible for somebody else, but I'm not going to look at it like that. I want to be like the one guy in 10,000 guys that's going to be like, hey, the odds are be damned. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm going to be the guy that gets it done. And so being fit and practicing, I've competed in some elk calling contests this year, and that's kind of interesting because like I know there's politics involved in it, and I get it, and it was just interesting and fun to participate. So, but I think that helped. That's going to help me. Like, did I practice elk hunting or elk calling more than I normally would have, or like try to you know, practice some different nuanced stuff with a bugle? Like, yeah, I think that's really going to help, and just to be fit and being a better elk caller and trying to even be more fit than I was last year. So, yep.
I respect that, Drew, because like nothing, faith, family, fitness, then elk hunting for me personally. So to hear that you're like, hey, I may have my kids full time, I might only get 4 or 5 days. Good on you. I think you got your head on straight priority wise. And then honestly, dude, like maybe it would be a blessing in disguise. Like you only have those 4 or 5 days. You will get every drop squeezed out of that hunt and probably create an opportunity for yourself with all your experience. And I think people can relate to that.
you get the time that you get, and like, hey, it'd be great to have 30 days to elk hunt, but that might not be that's not going to be my reality, and it's not going to be yours. And so like, if I can help you like make just a little bit of your life better because you had an experience with a bull, and like, we all know, like, when you kill it over the counter, and I'm not shitting on private land hunters, but like, specifically because that's my experience, like public land, I've never killed a private land elk. I don't know how it feels, but I know how it feels to go 5 years and grind and then shoot a bull. And like, what's the benefit of that going forward? Like, that's what life's about. Like, to me, is the experiences that you're gonna have. It's not like, dude, I lived in Beaver Creek for 20 years. Like, I saw all these billionaires, and like, I drove a taxi cab for 4 years just so like I could compete in the big mountain stuff, because I needed to be able to like travel during the busiest season of the year. And so the only job I could find wasn't working in a ski shop. It was driving a taxi cab at night. And then I did that year round for 4 years, and I was able to travel and stuff. But dude, I used to like get in the cab with these rich people, and they'd like, having these conversations, and they'd be like, oh, if you're so smart, then why are you driving a taxi cab? And I was just like, this is a social experiment, and one day I'm going to benefit from this knowledge.
Yeah.
But like, those people are fucking miserable, most of them.
Yeah.
Money doesn't make you happy, man. And I've seen it like over and over and over again. Like, my personal life, my family stuff, like money doesn't make you happy. You're going to die miserable and alone. Rich, like, fuck that, man. You're going to die with a bunch of experiences. Like, hey, man, I killed over-the-counter bull by myself, or I shot this big buck with my bow after 7 years of bow hiking to try and get one like that. And just life's more valuable with more experiences. I can't wait to take my kids elk hunting. So,
me too, man. Like, I don't know. Like, my daughter probably is a hard no. We'll see. I'll keep inviting her, but even my son, I love him to death, but like, he might not be into it, Drew. Like, I can make him hate it, real quick. So by trying to make him love it. So I'm real cautious, but I definitely want him to just see and observe my passion for being outside, away from cell phones, cell towers, screens, the internet, notifications, and bullshit. I want him just like I unplug, and I want him to like absorb that practice to whatever degree.
I get what you're saying, but I got my son's 9 now. He missed a 180-inch whitetail with his crossbow when he was 7. The only way I could get him to do that stuff was to let him bring his Nintendo Switch, though. So like, I just kind of felt like, I wanted to not have the screen, and I tried that at first, but like, it didn't work. And then I'd bring the Nintendo Switch. At least I could get him to go with me, and he enjoyed it. And so like, I just caution you that experience to me is like, use whatever tools are at your disposal to get them to love it.
Yeah, that's cool. I did want to give you a plug because we do have quite a few listeners that are real passionate elk hunters. It looks like it's real, REEL, realgamecalls.com. Check out, he's got a bunch of stuff on there. He's got some stuff that's in stock. Jump on that. Do you have social too, like where people could follow along?
Yeah, it's all real game calls, and like, I don't want to oversell my calls. I would just tell people, like, this is not like when I invented this stuff, this is not like me inventing a product to try and get, this is art. Like, I pick art that I put on my skis, and this is like, my great grandfather invented candy corn, so this is like a talent, was I always just made
Mm-hmm.
and I made this art for myself to take elk hunting, and so I sell it to people, and that's basically what I do. So it is different than everybody else's, but it is designed to be highly effective. So check it out. If you have any questions, hit me up.
Hit them up, guys. And Drew, I just want to thank you for your time. So glad to connect with you, and just, I told you I wanted to get to know you, hang out, and I feel like, okay, I know Drew from Real Game Calls now, and I will be following along, man. I hope you have some success out in the mountains this year if you get away, but hopefully tons of success at home with your kids and your business.
No, I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing how you do on that new ACL. So it's a fun process. people are like, how do you think that's fun? I don't know. I did it 4 times, and you got to make the most out of life, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, thanks, Dan.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Separation is in the preparation. We'll catch you on the next one.